A good Thursday morning to you, Central Georgia. Thanks for tuning in here to your extended forecast. We're going to break down what we have in store for rain for the rest of the work week. A little bit of good news on that front. But once we transition into the weekend, things are shaping up to be quite messy, a very similar pattern to what we did have as of last week. So just utilize those dry periods with some sunshine while you can get them. And I'll give you a glimpse about when the best time for any outdoor plans will be. Maybe not necessarily coordinating with your schedule, but like I said, we have to take them while we can get them. So let's go ahead and talk about our 48-hour rainfall totals. If I just click back to that graphic, I clicked very quickly through, and it looks like it's just going to be stuck on a couple of graphics. So just give me 1 second. This one's going to play out. We'll click through it. There we go, right there. 48-hour rainfall totals. So I went back over the past 2 days because we were already receiving rain around this time yesterday. So some of the rain may not be taken into account on the 24-hour totals. So I went back over the last 2 days just to be safe. And we can see plenty of areas down to our south and our southeast, a lot of those green colors. So some areas got some totals maybe upwards of an inch, close to 2 inches, close to 3 inches in portions of Telfair County down there south of McRae, about 2.8 inches of rain. But most of Central Georgia did find themselves in some sort of a shade of blue, somewhere just below the inch mark or maybe just a tad bit above it. One of the higher totals we did see was up here in Hancock County, about 2.6 inches of rain. But it does look like down there in Telfair County, that very isolated spot right in the middle of the county did take the cake for the most rain that was received yesterday. But not just areas down in our south and our southeast. You can see as you take a trip down I-75 over around Cordele, mainly northwest of Cordele, about 2.2 inches of rain just off I-75. And even if you did get your fair share of some very heavy downpours, I can attest we saw a lot of them down in Warner Robins yesterday. Some areas of Warner Robins only about a ½ inch of rain, but some other areas did get a little bit closer to the inch mark. Same story up here in downtown Macon. And if you live in areas like Thomaston or maybe up into Milledgeville, not even getting to that inch mark, and Thomaston barely recording any rainfall whatsoever. So the higher totals were definitely seen closer to where the center of low pressure was as it moved onshore briefly, closer down to the coast of the state. So let's go over your headlines. Pop-up shower and storm chances, those are going to continue each and every day. More widespread rain chances are going to start as we head into the second day of your weekend on Saturday. And there's just going to be even more rain as this very dreary and unsettled weather pattern does make its presence known for quite an extended period of time. In fact, we're still not really even getting a good glimpse of when the cloudy skies will get out of here. But there is a bit of a sign of relief right now. Down at the Georgia National Fairgrounds, it has been a messy morning. It's been gloomy. We've had fog in the picture. We've seen a couple light showers traverse over the fairgrounds. That's why you'll continue to see a lot of the puddles over here, maybe even a little bit of overflowing in some low area. Actually, no, I think that's just the shadows right there. But some breaks in the cloud cover, getting some glimpses of sunshine. It looks like the messy and overcast skies are finally going to begin to clear as we move closer into the afternoon hours. Let's take a look at your current visibility, where we still do see some areas of thin fog right there around the I-75-475 split as you make your way up to Macon or maybe from Macon down towards Warner Robins. And then some areas of very thin fog still remaining down in Bleckley County. These two areas were the two areas that we did see some patches of dense fog that really limited visibility to maybe only a couple of 100 feet ahead of you earlier this morning. So it's taking a little bit more time for that low-level cloud cover to continue to lift up into the sky. But most everyone looks good to go now if you are venturing out on the roads, visibility-wise, pretty much back to normal. So as we are going to try to continue to get some breaks in the cloud cover and that fog continues to lift, our temperatures should begin to warm accordingly. You will find your warmer temperatures down in the south here in central Georgia, somewhere in the upper 70s, starting to get close to the 80-degree mark, especially in Vidalia. A little bit cooler farther up to the north, especially up in Forsyth, where they're still sitting at the 70-degree mark. Those areas up to the north and the northwest held on to the upper 60s a little bit this morning. But overall, everyone is virtually feeling the same. Warner Robins may be a little bit early with their update. 79 degrees actually matching what the temperature is in Vidalia, way down to the south and the southeast. So this low pressure center that brought all of our widespread showers, maybe a couple rumbles of thunder yesterday, has ushered in plenty of moisture on our dew point temperatures map. This is looking very similar to what it did this time yesterday. Lots of that dark green color, that muggy air that you can wear is present right now, courtesy of this low pressure center. and it's going to continue to be present. It's really just going to kind of dump off this warm and humid air mass, and it's going to stick around, which is going to be a crucial factor in leading to our scattered rain chances or widespread rain chances over the next couple of days. So with humidity present, with temperatures warming accordingly, some areas are already feeling well into the 80s. Feels like 81 in Cordele, 81 in Rochelle, 87 already down in McRae, and only going to see that temperature tick up even higher. Most areas are pretty true to their actual temperatures, somewhere in the 70s. It's once you get close to that 80-degree mark temperature-wise that the feels like numbers start to get inflated a little bit, a couple degrees warmer than what the actual temperature does read. Not as much of a breeze present as we did have yesterday. It was a pretty windy day, even if you weren't receiving anything in the way of rain. But about a steady 5-mile-an-hour breeze, 7-mile-per-hour breeze in some spots. And then other areas, it does say the winds are relatively calm. So it has calmed down in that aspect, but the wind was some pretty nice relief yesterday, especially with the rain-cooled air that we did have present. So hopefully this can build back in a little bit as we go into this afternoon. Not looking to be as windy as yesterday, but maybe just a little bit of a breeze can provide you with some relief from a little bit of the heat that will be present. So we see plenty more cloud cover in the satellite and radar picture than we did as of a couple hours ago. That's because we had lots of fog present, and that fog has continued to lift higher up into the sky. So now our satellite and radar is picking it up a little bit better. But we'll kind of break it down piece by piece because we have seen our fair share of sprinkle showers at the very least. Let's take a look up here in our northern sector. It looks like we had some showers moving through Monroe County, Jasper County, over from the west into northern Taylor County. All of that activity has fizzled out in nature. Down in Houston County, an area that did see a good cluster of maybe some steady and heavy rainfall, specifically down there in Perry at the Georgia National Fairgrounds, where we still saw some of those puddles lingering on the sidewalks. All of that has fizzled out in nature, and we still do have a little bit of rain the farther south you live. The only thing I'm really spotting off the top of my eye right now is going to be west of Abbeville, a very isolated shower in nature. But we'll take it down to the south and the southeast, those areas that got a whole lot of rain yesterday. And maybe down in Toombs County, seeing some scattered showers, and just to the north and northeast of Toombs County, just outside of Emmanuel County up here north of I-16. So let's take a big picture view, take a look at the entire state of Georgia as a whole. All of this cloud cover virtually appearing out of nowhere. We weren't alone in our foggy morning here in central Georgia. As you can see over to the west along the state line, plenty of fog that is continuing to rise up back into Alabama. So it has been a pretty humid atmosphere, not only here, but in areas that do surround us. You will continue to see this center of low pressure that you actually can kind of get a good picture of right now on the satellite and radar. It's going to be kind of right in the middle of where you are seeing a little bit of spin. So somewhere just off the coast of maybe Myrtle Beach, right there on the state line of North Carolina and South Carolina. That will continue to move out of the picture way up to the north and the northeast. And the farther away from that center of low pressure that we get, that means we're not going to have as much moisture that is present near the center of it. So we're not going to have much in the way of widespread rain today. However, we are still going to have sufficient humidity courtesy of this system that will continue to sprout some scattered showers throughout this afternoon. So right now, this is a little bit behind what's actually going on right now, but this low pressure center, think of it more over here off closer to the Atlantic coast of the United States, going to continue to move out to the north and the northeast. I think it's eventually going to just move offshore and be more of a fish system as it goes out into the Atlantic Ocean. But then we turn our eyes to this system up here. We were talking about this boundary that would have more implications once we got into the weekend. Well, right now, parts of it are staying stationary, some warm fronts forming, some cold fronts forming. This line is going to kind of move up to the north over on the western sector of it. So that's where you see that warm front moving up across northern Texas, eventually into Oklahoma. And it's going to take more of the stationary section with it. So this section, kind of to the left of where the low pressure center is, will start to sag a little bit to the north. And then this section up here where the cold front is going to move a little bit over to the east and the southeast. It's going to be more of kind of a straight line direction, like kind of propagated along what my arm is doing as of right now. And it's going to continue to sag down a little bit towards the south, but it's not going to have that clean sweeping motion, which we would love to have here in central Georgia. Yes, when you do have that fast motion of a front coming through, you typically do have some organized severe weather systems, especially with the humid environment that we would give ahead of it. but it would also be a little bit of relief. It would be one day of messy weather for ushering in some slightly drier air, which would definitely be very good for our forecast, but that doesn't look to be the case. This is just going to kind of park itself to the north of us. It's going to lock us into a section of some warm and humid air. So it's really going to act as kind of a blocking mechanism like we talk about with the wedge, those Appalachian Mountains kind of blocking the flow of some cooler and drier air from the north and the northeast. This boundary is virtually going to kind of do the same thing. So let's talk about temperatures. We actually did hit 83 yesterday here in Macon, believe it or not. Got a couple peaks of sunshine. I saw sunshine for maybe about 5 total minutes yesterday, and then it was just cloudy and it was rainy. So a lot of areas probably didn't make it out of the 70s, but we did start out pretty close to average, around 65 degrees for our morning low yesterday. Nowhere near the average high of 90 degrees. So once again, 90 degrees is our average high this time of year now. It's going to become more of the normal, and we haven't had too many 90-degree days, so that's a little bit of the saving grace with all of these rain chances. We have kept temperatures below what they could be this time of year, and especially below what they were back in 1985. 103 for the record. I think this might be the third day in a row I've seen 103 as the record all time. So thankfully we are nowhere near that. And we did record a little bit of rain at Middle Georgia Regional Airport, about 0.3 of an inch in nature. So that puts our number back a little bit more above average. We're hovering close to an inch above average where we should be this time of year. And we have a lot more rain chances in store that are going to continue to give us a little bit of a cushion on that number. Sunrise yesterday, 6:27, sunset at 8:39. So continuing to watch sunset get a little bit later and sunrise get a little bit earlier. Speaking of which, let's take a look at our sunrise this morning. It was at 6:27 as well. So maybe tomorrow we finally get to 6:26. It's probably not going to get much earlier than 6:15 in the morning, which is going to be a good sign. If we start to get the sun rising before the 6 a.m. hour, I'm sure many of you aren't going to be too happy with that sun peeking through the curtains and giving you a bit of an early wake-up call. But the name of the game is scattered rain, and we are going to play that game for a long time, so go ahead and get comfortable. A little bit drier today because the rain is a lot more scattered in nature than it was yesterday. It was widely scattered yesterday. I think just about everyone recorded some amount of rain here in central Georgia. Well, this is not going to be the case today. I think more areas than not are going to remain dry and just deal with some partly cloudy skies as opposed to receiving some of our isolated showers. Maybe even the potential for a thunderstorm once again. We're warm, we're humid, especially with highs that could reach the upper 80s today, so getting closer to average and plenty of moisture content that can continue to produce some intensification with some of the pockets of heavy rain and start to give you a couple rumbles of thunder, but not expecting anything in the way of severe weather as we go throughout today. So let's time it out through Future View. What does it have to say about it? And these model runs are fluctuating pretty drastically, but they have remained pretty consistent for this afternoon and Friday afternoon. As the system does move out of the picture, the rain is going to be a lot closer to where the center of low pressure is. So that's going to be up towards the north and the northeast, moving offshore. It's going to leave us with warm and humid air. So it's going to be a very summer-like pattern today. So now, obviously, we're continuing to say summer-like because it's not officially summer yet until June 20th, but warm air, plenty of humidity in the picture, so we will see a lot of these isolated blips pop up virtually out of nowhere, just like popcorn would. That's popping in the bag. It just kind of comes out of nowhere, and then we can see some of this try to organize along one of those boundaries that are still attached to that low pressure center. That's why you're kind of seeing a definitive line of showers, maybe even some thunderstorms across our southernmost counties as we go into more so the nighttime hours. This is 9 p.m. tonight. Does this play out accordingly? We'll have to see if there's really going to be anything left in terms of fuel for some of these scattered showers, maybe some of these thunderstorms trying to cluster together to have more widespread impacts. But the best chance at rain today will be the farther south that you live. That's going to kind of be where a boundary does situate itself. And that's also going to kind of be the reason why most areas don't see most of the rain throughout today. The farther north that you live, as we go up I-75, you make your way towards I-20, you can see most of central Georgia is pretty dry by the nighttime hours, but can't rule out seeing a shower or a sprinkle throughout the afternoon hours. Continue to keep that umbrella and the rain gear very handy, because if you don't, Mother Nature has a funny way of playing some games with you, and then she will dump a shower over your area when you're least prepared. So let's go overnight now. That's when the activity fizzles out. Should be a nice and clear start in terms of rain. No rain in the forecast for your Friday morning. And hopefully we can get a lot of this thin cloud cover out of here so we can finally get a good glimpse of a gorgeous sunrise to bring us into the weekend. But going into your Friday afternoon, right past lunchtime, temperature is going to be pretty warm once again, especially if we're predominantly clear for the first half of your Friday. Temperatures will warm up accordingly with plenty of sunshine. Humidity stays in place. It's another very summer-like pattern where you'll start to see just very isolated showers pop up in nature. That will continue into the late afternoon hours and into the evening. And then once we get into the evening, once again, starting to see some of these showers, maybe even some low-end thunderstorms organized together for some more widespread impacts, but still doesn't really look like anything substantial in the way of severe weather. As we go into Friday night, however, there is going to be a line up to the north and the northwest of us, and this line is continuing to track later and later according to model run to the next model run. So you saw it had a little bit of organization back to the north of us. It's kind of hard to see because it is behind the banner, but you can get some glimpses up here about some reds, maybe some yellows right there. But as it continues to move through in a cooler portion of the day, those overnight hours are really going to weaken this system in nature. This is going to kind of be the first wave of many that are going to appear over the next couple of days. And this is kind of the reasoning for warranting a severe weather outlook for Friday. It is a conditional outlook, which means it's all going to depend on how this does hold together. If it does trend a little bit earlier, maybe more so Friday evening into Friday night as it tries to push into central Georgia, that would mean that it would have a little bit more to work with than it would during the overnight hours. But 5 a.m. on Saturday, that is a far ways away from your Friday evening and Friday night plans. It does look like you're just going to be dealing with some scattered showers, maybe a low-end thunderstorm or two, but most of the severe weather potential Friday night into early Saturday morning is going to be to the north of us, and you will see that reciprocated on the severe weather outlook when I show you after we get through future view. Now, Saturday is a bit of a head scratcher. So it's going to kind of lead the way into us settling into a pattern like what we had as of last week, where we had severe weather outlook after severe weather outlook just about each and every day. So we do have a severe weather outlook for once again on Saturday that we'll get to in just 1 second. But let's kind of time out what we're seeing according to future view first before we get into that. 2 p.m. on Saturday, pop-up showers, maybe a storm or two as we continue into the afternoon hours. And this morning, future view was showing a more organized cluster of thunderstorms popping up over to the west in Alabama, moving through and being a lot more widespread through central Georgia as you go into the nighttime hours on Saturday. Not showing that much whatsoever. So I'm not sure I'm really completely buying this model run about what's going to happen on Saturday. I do believe we have a better chance of seeing some showers, a couple of storms, 1 or 2 of which might be on the stronger side. But future view really doesn't believe in that idea, and anything that does pop up, of course, once you go into the overnight hours, it is going to fizzle out. But it did have something popping up as of the late afternoon and evening hours as of the last model run, and that would make sense. When temperatures are at their warmest, going to continue to see anything intensify and kind of run rampant and have a lot of coverage over central Georgia, but not maintaining that idea anymore. We'll continue to monitor what the model runs do say. But want to show you this for today, your day 1 storm outlook. No severe weather outlook here. Doesn't mean it's out of the realm of possibility, but if you do see something in the way of a stronger storm or a severe storm, going to be very isolated in nature. We don't get these issued for when we typically have a summer-like setup, these pop-up showers and storms. That's very disorganized. That's heat of the day stuff. Nothing really organized per se, so that's why we don't see an outlook for today, but I do still think the severe weather chances are basically slim to none as we go throughout the rest of today. Now your day 2 outlook. There's a big yellow shaded area to the north and the northwest of us. That is a level 2 risk, and it is present in the northwest corner of the state of Georgia, but you can see that we have a level 1 in areas all down to the south and the southeast of that. It doesn't include many of our southern and southeasternmost counties, but all of us here in central Georgia, they're still outlining the risk for seeing maybe a stronger or severe storm as we go into the Friday night hours, maybe into the overnight hours. So the main potential threats, if you do see a stronger thunderstorm in nature, just gusty winds and large hail, you're going to hear things get a little bit loud outside. It's going to get quite windy in nature. But you all know the drill. We're getting into the summertime months. Thunderstorms are not atypical whatsoever. They virtually happen just about each and every day. So if you do hear it getting messy outside, you hear some rumbles of thunder off in the distance, just make plans to go ahead and head indoors. Go ahead and check out our live radar loop that we have here on 13 WMAZ. You can see where that storm is, if it's going to move over your area, and about what time it's actually going to move out of the area, so you can continue any outdoor plans that you do have. But I want to show you this level 1 risk that we do have present for tomorrow because I'm not buying it so much. If this system moves in, this wave of showers and thunderstorms, it looks to be during the overnight hours, and models have it completely dissipating before it gets here to central Georgia. So this is conditional on how that line does hold together, what time that wave, that line does move through. And it doesn't quite look like it's going to make its impacts known down here in central Georgia. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this level 1 continue to trim back up to the north and the northwest as we get closer to tomorrow. Now your day 3 outlook. This is where things change a little bit. Everyone here has a level 2 risk for seeing some form of stronger severe weather. Once again, this just means a storm may or may not have some gusty winds, maybe even possibly some large hail. Of course, your frequent lightning and your heavy downpours that you're used to seeing with any type of thunderstorm that you do have. But they have a little bit better confidence in all of central Georgia seeing some form of stronger or severe weather as we go into Saturday. But this is not a guarantee that you do see something in the way of severe weather. We saw that come to fruition many times over the course of last week. We had a severe weather outlook after severe weather outlook each and every day, even level 2s and level 3s that didn't necessarily pan out. In fact, I think we only had about 1 or 2 severe thunderstorm warnings total throughout the entire course of that week. It's going to be a very similar setup to what we did have as of last week. So we'll probably have a lot of these level 1 and level 2 threats just about each and every day. It's not something that should alarm you. It just means we have the potential for a stronger or a severe storm, maybe even being a little bit widespread in nature like what we saw last Friday, although it's nothing that's really going to be atypical whatsoever. Where we would start upping our wording would be more so if we did have the potential for tornadoes and such, and that's looking very, very low as of right now and not looking like it's going to be very possible. But if things do change, then of course we'll update you, and we'll be continuing to push out a weather impact alert, making sure that we have all the information that you do need. But it's just really covering the basis that, hey, we have the potential for seeing a stronger or a severe storm each and every day. It's going to get a little bit loud. It's going to get a bit windy outside. Good news is it's going to be gone in probably about 15 to 20 minutes, and then you're good to go because it's used up all the fuel that the atmosphere does have available in front of it. So let's talk about some of the winds as we go throughout today, tomorrow, and into Friday or Saturday, excuse me, a little bit. So right now you can see playing them on loop, nothing really too substantial. I went ahead and just didn't show any pause points right there because at the most we're probably going to see maybe a 15 to 20 mile per hour breeze. But of course, localized areas, if you do see a stronger thunderstorm, are going to have some gustier winds enveloped within it. But that's not for certain that that's going to pop up as of right now, but just be on the lookout for that. A steady breeze should be what you're walking outside to and giving you a little bit of relief because temperatures are going to be pretty warm over the next couple of days, especially for your Friday and your Saturday. But let's talk about the humidity levels. This low pressure center, I keep referring to it, is going to dump this warm and humid air mass all over central Georgia, and it's just going to stay in place. You can really get a good idea on this muggy meter right here that we don't have any big scale weather systems necessarily impacting us because the humidity levels are going to virtually be the same. Somewhere maybe with dew point temperatures in the 60s, getting into the low 70s, but we're hanging around that line right in between the 60s and the 70s. So the humid and the very muggy regions of this muggy meter. So we need to see a really big downtick in these humidity levels. That would be a good indication that finally something in the way of a cold front might be moving through and finally ushering in some drier air. That's what we saw at the end of last week, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed that hopefully towards the end of next week that we do see something in the way of that. So let's take a look at what the long range models have to say. Won't spend too much time on it, but we do see 4 p.m. on Sunday, wet all over. Going into your Monday afternoon, once again, wet all over, maybe areas farther over to the west. We're not getting locked in on this timing. This is very vague right now, but the rain potential and the storm potential does exist each and every day. But the one thing I am continuing to see with this, the coverage of rain is a lot more widespread across areas in the south and the southeast that are under the similar weather pattern that we are. So the mornings and the early afternoon hours, once you get to just past lunchtime, all the way into the afternoon, evening hours, a little bit into the nighttime hours, you're operating off the heat of the day, and that's what a lot of these waves of showers and thunderstorms are going to use to operate off of. So if you have any plans, maybe want to find that window where you can get outside, cut the lawn for a little bit, because it's probably getting overgrown with all the rain that we have been receiving as of recently. The morning hours are going to be your best window to do so. I know it's not the most opportune timing, but this is the name of the game during the summertime months. It is going to be humid, it is going to be hot, and that is going to be fuel to the fire for just scattered showers, some thunderstorms popping up just about each and every day. We just don't like this pattern because it is a little more widespread, a little bit of a driving force with some of these upper level systems that move through. But we want to get back to more of the scattered nature, somewhere around 20 to 30% each and every day of just a scattered shower, maybe a strong or a severe thunderstorm. But then once it does pop up, or really I should say as quick as it does pop up, it is going to start to weaken in nature and really dissipate. So going into your Tuesday at around 5 p.m., Wednesday at 4 p.m., not much change whatsoever. The long range models go all the way out to Thursday at 4 p.m. right now, and we're really not seeing anything in the way of relief in terms of the rainfall. So you have plenty of shots of rain. I know your backyard garden has definitely got to be rejoicing. Your lawn's got to be rejoicing. And something we should be rejoicing about is our temperatures are going to be a lot cooler. And I thought that was going to transition into the 7-day right there. I'll move back and circle back around to that point I was just about to make. But with continued rainfall, some areas could see some pretty high totals over the next couple of days. So for our excessive rainfall outlook, which is valid for Sunday right now, this is the day 4 of the outlook, I do believe, a marginal risk for all of central Georgia for some isolated flash floodings. Again, that is not going to be everyone. That's going to be some localized areas that get thunderstorm after thunderstorm, kind of roll over the same area, just continue to dump heavy rainfall totals over that same area. That can lead to some puddling up of water, low-lying areas near bodies of water, more susceptible to some isolated flash flooding. It's something we'll keep an eye out for, and I know this does say valid for Sunday, so this goes over the course of this weekend, but we still have 4 more days forecasted at least as we go into next week with some more rain potential. I imagine this is probably going to get continued as we go into the midweek and the end of the work week next week. But circling back to what I did want to say, temperatures right now, average high temperature is 90 degrees. We have 2 days that are going to fall somewhere above that threshold. 91 on Friday, 92 on Saturday is what I do have forecasted. Obviously, it's going to feel a little bit warmer with the humidity we have present. But nonetheless, our temperatures could be a lot warmer this time of year. Many of you are probably used to June popping up 95s, upper 90s, even that 103 that we saw on the record. So we'll be very thankful that the rain and the cloud cover is inhibiting our warm up just a little bit, and we're left with some pleasant temperatures for the month of June. We will hold on to the 80s as much as we can as we go into this warmest portion of the summer and really transition into the official start of the summer season. So that's what's going on high temperature wise. However, let's talk about these rain chances. Remember, I was saying that number one, once we get into the long range models, it's very vague, not as best resolution, can't quite get a good idea of what the rain coverage is. So for the next 3 days, we can kind of nail it down a little bit better. I think about a 30% chance of seeing a isolated shower, an isolated storm in nature, maybe a little bit stronger, not really thinking anything in the way of severe weather Thursday and Friday. Saturday has a little bit better of a chance for everything. Coverage of rain, scattered showers, maybe the potential for a strong storm or two. But once again, it's not atypical for the summertime months. We're hot, we're humid. We know thunderstorms are going to be pretty prevalent more often than not. But the chances for a shower and storm continue. 60% Sunday all the way into next Wednesday. If I had a Thursday and I had an 8-day forecast here, I would put another 60% on there with a partly cloudy and thunderstorm icon right there. We'll have some dry periods. We'll have some peaks of sunshine. You're not going to get rain every single day, but the potential is there for some pretty widespread rain, even a storm or two, 1 or 2 of which could be of the stronger nature. So it's a very messy pattern that we're continuing to settle into, but I do believe today and tomorrow are probably your best chances at having any outdoor plans and trying to dodge some of the rain that is going to be very scattered in nature. Today and tomorrow are very summer-like days. Very scattered rain, not necessarily widespread like the rest of the days on your 7-day forecast are. So that's why I continue to say, try to get those outdoor plans in Thursday and Friday, but not only then, when you do get some glimpses of the sun trying to peek out from behind some of the cloud cover that will crowd our area for the next couple of days, next week and some time. hopefully, fingers crossed, by the time we get Thursday and Friday here on the 7-day forecast, we can finally say goodbye to the messy stretch of weather and just deal with a more isolated and scattered rain chance each and every day. But like I said, if you're having any outdoor plans, you hear it getting a little bit messy outside, our live radar loop here on our Weather Impact 24/7 stream, great tool to utilize to figure out where the rain is, when it's going to move out, how far away it is. Maybe it's a storm over in your neighboring county and it's just going to move out of that area, not going to impact you whatsoever. This 13 WMAZ Plus tool with our Weather Impact live radar loop is going to be something that you can utilize 24/7, no matter what time of the day it is. Overnight showers and thunderstorms waking you up, you can pop right over and take a look at what's going on that radar. Kind of make you your own meteorologist like we do. We have our radar apps on our phone that we're looking at all the time when we do see dark clouds out there, or we hear some rumbles of thunder off in the distance. So you can kind of be your own meteorologist with this live radar tool. And of course, we have lots of weather content, whether it's my extended forecast that I do every day, whether it's some of our forecasts that we put into the shows. It's our extra content, kind of breaking down what's going on outside of the weather or other factors rather than just highs, lows, and rain chances. Did a lot with the wildfire smoke earlier this week. So you can tune into this live radar channel, keep it on loop on your TV all afternoon long, even if you're not watching it. It's great background noise or some great white noise to put you right to sleep, especially with the dreary weather. That's going to make for the perfect conditions for a nap. A little me talking to put you right to sleep, and then a little bit of rain that's just hitting your window as some white noise too. So thank you for tuning in for today's extended forecast. We'll be back here tomorrow at 10:30, kind of breaking down what your weekend forecast looks like for specific weekend events, and then kind of talking and recapping what we've been up to this far in terms of, or this week so far in terms of the weather team, and then obviously looking at that extended forecast, looking at some of those temperature outlooks, precip outlooks to give you a good idea about what's in store past the end of your 7-day forecast. Thanks for tuning in. Have a terrific Thursday, and I'll see you tomorrow for a fantastic Friday.